What's up, guys? Welcome back to another awesome video here on Comic Station. We all know the Marvel Universe for its epic cosmic battles, world-saving action, and superhero beatdowns. But behind those metal suits, godlike powers, and dark masks, there are hearts beating. Hearts that are sometimes way more fragile than the world's strongest villains. Yeah, guys, love in the Marvel Universe is definitely not an easy ride. Some of these relationships gave our heroes the strength to keep fighting, while others straight up destroyed them from the inside out. In today's video, we're counting down the top 10 best and most iconic couples in Marvel history. We're talking about couples who quietly saved the day, and others whose love literally shattered multiple alternate universes. I promise you, after watching this list, you'll never look at some of these Marvel movies and comics the same way again. So right now, before we jump into number 10 and our very first awesome couple, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know down in the comments, who do you think is the most loyal couple in the entire Marvel Universe? Are you ready? Then without further ado, let's get right into it. Number 10, Rogue and Gambit. Alright guys, we're kicking off our list at number 10 with one of the most beloved and loyal relationships in comic book history, Rogue and Gambit from the X-Men. These two showed us all that true love doesn't even need physical contact. It lives entirely in the soul and the heart. Gambit, this charming and mischievous mutant, knew exactly what he was getting into when he fell for Rogue. He knew that any skin-to-skin contact with her could literally drain his life force and powers. I mean, they couldn't even hold hands. But Gambit never gave up. He stood by her with everything he had, proving that Rogue was his absolute soulmate, not just some crush. For years, they made the ultimate sacrifice, connecting only through glances, deep conversations, and wearing gloves, until they finally found a way for Rogue to control her powers. Their wedding scene in the comics and Gambit's undying loyalty seriously melts every fan's heart. They proved that to be with the one you love, you've got to be patient and push through the absolute toughest obstacles. Number 9, Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. Coming in at number 9, we have the most down-to-earth, solid, and beautiful couple in the entire Marvel Universe, Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. While other superhero couples are constantly dealing with crazy drama and endless breakups, Luke and Jessica are the ultimate definition of a real, stable, and incredibly supportive family. Both of them had super rough pasts. Jessica spent years battling heavy trauma and emotional scars, while Luke was always in the middle of gritty street fights. But when these two finally found each other, they became each other's safe haven. Their love was so real and pure that they ended up getting married and having an incredibly smart and cool daughter named Danielle. Luke Cage is always there like a rock backing Jessica up, and Jessica will defend her family with everything she's got. Watching these two, even with their superhuman powers, deal with everyday human struggles like rent, life challenges, and raising a kid together is what makes their relationship one of the most inspiring and sweet love stories in all of Marvel. Number 8, Cyclops and Jean Grey. Moving on to number 8, a couple that easily has one of the most classic, deep, and legendary romantic storylines in all of Marvel, Cyclops, Scott Summers, and Jean Grey. Their love goes all the way back to the early days of the X-Men. Scott was the shy, introverted guy who always isolated himself because of his destructive eye beams, thinking he didn't deserve to be loved. But Jean Grey, with her telepathic powers, didn't just read Scott's mind, she touched his soul. She became the only safe space where Scott could truly be himself, teaching him how to love himself despite all his flaws. The real beauty of their love lies in their absolute, limitless sacrifice. In their most famous storyline, the Dark Phoenix saga, when Jean gets possessed by a cosmic entity and turns into a terrifyingly powerful monster, the rest of the team loses hope, but Scott never stops loving her. Even in her darkest moments, he fights to save her soul, and in the end, Jean sacrifices herself to keep Scott and his world safe. They've gone to the brink of death for each other countless times in the comics, but their connection is so strong that they always rise from the ashes. Scott and Jean proved that when you love someone with all your heart, not even the greatest forces in the universe can tear you apart. 7. Vision and Scarlet Witch.
Coming in at number 7, we've got a couple whose love literally pushed the boundaries of humanity, magic, and technology, the unique, mind-bending bond between Vision and Wanda Maximoff. I mean, how does a mutant witch carrying tons of emotional trauma fall in love with a robot made of metal alloys, wires, and artificial intelligence? And how can a man-made machine truly understand what it means to shed tears, feel a heartbeat, and experience a broken heart? The answer is simple: pure, genuine love. This relationship started back when both of them felt completely isolated in the Avengers. Wanda's dark past and uncontrollable magic terrified everyone around her, while Vision always felt distanced from society because he wasn't human. But when these two came together, a literal miracle happened. They got married, built a cozy little home, and Wanda did everything she could to make Vision feel human, while Vision's gentle nature became the ultimate cure for Wanda's exhausted soul. Their love was so beautiful and powerful that even when Vision was destroyed on the battlefield, Wanda used her chaos magic to warp reality and create a whole parallel world just to spend a little more time with the love of her life. Vision's famous line to Wanda, "What is grief, if not love persevering?" is the most beautiful definition of their eternal bond. It proved that love has absolutely nothing to do with flesh and blood. It's all about the soul and mutual understanding. 6. Black Bolt and Medusa. Moving on to number 6, a couple that literally defined the telepathy of love for the entire comic book world: Black Bolt and Medusa, the king and queen of the Inhumans. Now, why do I call it telepathy? Well, Black Bolt's power is basically his biggest curse. His voice is so insanely destructive that even a tiny whisper can flatten an entire city. This means the man is condemned to spend his whole life in absolute silence, unable to say even a single romantic word to his wife. But that's where Medusa's magic comes in. Medusa isn't just his wife. She is literally Black Bolt's voice to the world. Their mental and emotional connection is so deep and otherworldly that Medusa can look into Black Bolt's eyes and instantly understand every single thought, feeling, and unspoken word he has, translating it for everyone else. Together, they rule a massive kingdom and have made some of the toughest decisions side by side through countless cosmic wars. Medusa's loyalty to her husband's eternal silence and Black Bolt's sacrifices to protect her prove that you don't need words to understand the one you love. Real love has its own special language, and it speaks louder than any sound in the universe. 5. Reed Richards and Sue Storm. Coming in at number 5, we proudly present the first, most stable, and most iconic family in Marvel history: Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, and Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman from the Fantastic Four. These two have been the absolute pillar and beating heart of the Marvel Universe ever since the 1960s. Now, even though Reed Richards is the smartest man on Earth, he sometimes gets so lost in his scientific formulas and saving the world that he completely forgets about normal, everyday life. But Sue Storm is always there like a safe anchor, keeping Reed grounded and reminding him of how much humanity and family actually matter. On the flip side, even with all his crazy science projects, Reed honestly looks at Sue as the most valuable treasure in the entire multiverse. Their love isn't just about the two of them either. By starting a family and raising two incredible kids, Franklin and Valeria, they showed every hero in Marvel that you can totally save the world while still being amazing, loving parents. From high-tech labs to the deep corners of outer space and the darkest dimensions of the quantum realm, their bond has stood rock solid, proving that no science or magic in the universe is stronger than a real family connection. 4. Tony Stark and Pepper Potts. And that brings us to number 4, a couple that was, without a doubt, the beating heart of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, showing all of us how love can melt even a mountain of iron and pure ego: Tony Stark and Pepper Potts. In the beginning, Tony Stark was just a cocky playboy billionaire who didn't give a damn about anyone but himself. But Pepper Potts was the only one who looked past the shiny armor and the massive wealth to see the broken soul in the kind heart underneath. For years, she managed his chaotic life as his assistant, putting up with his mood swings and erratic behavior. And during Tony's darkest days, when he was battling severe trauma and PTSD after the Battle of New York, she stood right by him like a total guardian angel. Honestly, Tony Stark could never have become the hero who saved the universe without Pepper. She taught him that life is about so much more than just fighting and building new suits. She gave him a home, peace, and a family. Their love was so incredibly real that they ended up building a beautiful life together and having their daughter, Morgan. The absolute peak of their love and sacrifice comes in the final battle of Endgame, where Pepper, despite knowing how much she'd miss him, lets Tony make the ultimate sacrifice to save the universe. Kneeling beside him in his final moments, she looks into his eyes and softly says, "You can rest now." This beautiful, unmatched love is what turned Tony Stark from a selfish guy into the most selfless hero in history. 3. Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson. Coming in at number 3, we proudly present the most beloved, enduring, and beautiful couple in comic book history, who have been giving the entire world hope with their love for over half a century. Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson, or just MJ as we all know her. The relationship between Peter and MJ is honestly the most relatable and down-to-earth love story you can find. Unlike other superheroes who are dating royalty or cosmic aliens, Peter Parker is just a regular kid from Queens who has to deal with rent, being broke, and homework. MJ walked into his life with that legendary line from their very first meeting, "Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot." And from that exact moment, she became his biggest supporter. When MJ found out Peter was actually Spider-Man, she didn't run away like most people would.
Instead, she became the only person Peter could take off his mask around, share his deepest pain with, and cry on her shoulder. MJ embraced all the dangers of being married to Spider-Man with open arms, always waiting for him to return from his brutal battles. They got married, and through all the struggles, poverty, loss of loved ones, and villain threats, they never let go of each other's hands. The love between Peter and MJ proves that behind every great hero saving the world, there's a patient, strong, and incredible love, keeping them motivated to wake up and fight another day. Thor and Jane Foster. Taking the number 2 spot is a couple whose love proved that a bond of hearts can bridge the gap between ancient gods and mortal humans. Thor, the god of thunder, and Dr. Jane Foster. When Thor was first banished to Earth, he was just a cocky, reckless god who didn't understand the value of life. But meeting Jane Foster, a brilliant and brave earthly scientist, changed absolutely everything. Jane was the first person to truly believe in Thor. She taught him humanity and helped him realize that real power isn't in his muscles or his hammer, but in a heart that beats for others. On the flip side, Thor fell head over heels for Jane's intellect, independence, and fiery spirit. Their love faced the absolute toughest challenges, from cosmic distances and years of being apart to fighting the darkest villains in the universe. But the absolute peak of beauty and sacrifice in this relationship came during their dramatic storyline in the comics. Jane gets diagnosed with cancer and is literally on the brink of death. Yet when the world is in danger, Mjolnir chooses her, and she becomes Mighty Thor. Thor fights with everything he has to stop her from using this destructive power, since every transformation makes her cancer worse. But Jane sacrifices her own life to save Thor and the children of Asgard, passing away right in his arms. Thor's love for Jane was so deep and eternal that after she was gone, he took in his enemy's daughter to raise her in memory of Jane's pure love. They showed all of us that real love means unconditional sacrifice until your very last breath. And finally, taking the number 1 spot, we have the most loyal, legendary, and beautiful couple in Marvel history, whose love went beyond time, world wars, and even death itself. Captain America, Steve Rogers, and Peggy Carter. Their story kicks off back in the 1940s, right in the middle of World War II. Back when Steve was just a skinny, fragile kid, Peggy Carter looked past his appearance. She saw his courage, his heart of gold, and his sheer will, and she fell for him. They were the absolute definition of a classic, pure, and incredibly loyal love. But fate was brutal. To save the world, Steve had to crash his plane into the ice, promising Peggy he'd make it back for their dance, a promise that took him 70 years to keep. After waking up in the modern world, Steve Rogers never once forgot about Peggy. Even when he visited her on her deathbed in her old age, he still looked into her eyes with the exact same love and respect as day one. The true beauty of this relationship peaked in Endgame. Steve Rogers, the man who had just saved the entire universe, gave up all his power, his Captain America shield, and all his glory to go back in time just to build a simple, quiet life with Peggy. That final scene in Endgame, where Steve finally holds Peggy in his arms and they're slow dancing in their quiet home, is hands down one of the most beautiful shots in all of Marvel.
Steve and Peggy's love taught us that no distance, no timeline, and no war can ever destroy a love you believe in with all your soul. Well, guys, we've made it to the end of this list, filled with love, sacrifice, and dream-like moments. The Marvel Universe might be packed with wars and explosions, but it's these exact relationships and love stories that give our heroes a reason to wake up and fight for tomorrow. Now, it's your turn. Let me know down in the comments, who do you think is the most beautiful and loyal couple in the Marvel Universe? Did Steve and Peggy deserve the #1 spot, or are you a fan of the real street-level love between Peter and MJ? I read and heart every single comment, so definitely drop your thoughts below. If you enjoyed this video and had a blast taking this trip down memory lane with me, make sure to smash that like button, share this video with your comic and Marvel-loving friends, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss our upcoming epic videos. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me to the end of this love story. Until the next mind-blowing video and awesome analysis, take care of yourselves, and peace out.